my cursor. It was like moving around. I'm like, where's the arrow? Oh
I know
God.
it's like a technical day today.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny.
It's
Oh,
funny. Yeah, with this bright light kind of in front of me, then it's kind of
yeah,
a little bit harder to see on the screen.
wild. All right. Well, we want to say hi to our YouTube audience. Okay. August apparently is the month for summer vacations, and we're missing a lot of mediums today. So I think what we're going to do today is bend the rules a little bit and show our YouTube audience how a one-on-one mediumship reading would work. And if you're a follower of our YouTube channel, I think you're going to see that there's a lot of differences in the kind of information that is presented in the course of the reading and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and just open us up with a prayer anyway, because that's always good to get spirit into the room. Holy Father, Mother God, thank you for allowing us to come together today in service of spirit. Please help us to open all of our senses, physical and spiritual, so that we can receive your messages without interference from our own minds. We humbly ask that you make this circle an uplifting and joyous experience for everyone in attendance. Please ask the spirits who recognize the voices in this room to join us this morning so that we will know that they watch over us, love us, and protect us still. And please allow us to deliver the information presented by Spirit with grace and compassion, in complete trust and respect of your infinite wisdom. Amen. Okay, YouTube audience. So, what we're going to try to do when Tammy and I both do our readings, we're going to try to talk you through certain steps of it, maybe tell you what we're feeling, or we'll just kind of point out different features of the reading as we go along, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions that you may have if you've never had a mediumship reading before. So, all right, so whoever gets a link first.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
let's see.
Hey, I could go ahead and start, Carol.
Okay.
I want to go to you.
Do ya? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to set a timer, Tammy. So
Yeah,
just
yeah.
roll until
Um,
you're done.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll go to you and we'll kind of see. And if by some chance you don't recognize, I feel like I can always jump out and you can
Mhm.
go in and we can kind of
Right.
go.
Right.
Um, so I feel like I may have your I feel like I may have your father here in spirit, or I may have both. Do you have do you have an uncle in spirit, a paternal uncle?
Not a paternal uncle,
Not
but
a
I do have an
paternal.
uncle in spirit.
You do. Okay. Okay. This he's definitely showing on the paternal side, so it must be your father. And so, but the first thing that came in, and this is why I can't remember. I know other people have in our group have brought your father in. Um, I don't believe I ever have, but the first thing I'm kind of seeing and feeling is someone's a male smoking a pipe. And so, would you understand your father to have ever smoked a pipe? Because something about that doesn't feel right to me.
That wouldn't be my father,
Okay, okay. So
but I do know the pipe smoker.
you do know the pipe smoker, okay, because
Yeah.
that's and would he somehow fit in on the paternal side?
No.
He wouldn't, okay,
Mm-mm.
because that's where he's showing me he is. Um, but he's also not kind of jumping right into the spot where, he might be on the paternal side. So I'm just going to keep going
Uh-huh.
with him with the pipe because that's the first thing that came in and that I was very much feeling was this man smoking a pipe, and also that this with this man I also understand that he likes crossword puzzles, And he likes things that challenge his intellect, I would say. Would you understand that about this
Yeah.
man?
Hmm.
Okay, thank you. And the name that came in before was, and we'll kind of see about this, was like Robert. So, would you understand a Robert for him or around him?
Oh, around him, yes.
You
Mhm.
would. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
around him.
Okay, all right. So, let me get a little bit more evidence from him, just to be sure that you understand who he is, and then we'll go to Robert, kind of see
Mhm.
if that's who the message is for, for Robert, or if he wants to talk about Robert. So, um, okay, thank you. Okay, he's a nice communicator. He's got a really nice, I want to call it his energy, like it's a smooth energy, where, um, and the reason I'm saying that is because I had this feeling as though he was waiting for me to say all of that. And then when I went back to kind of reconnect with him, he was right back with the next, um, memory or image he wants to show me. And so it's making me feel that, um, it just feels smooth. That's unless you can't take the next thing he's showing me, and then it's not so smooth. But he also shows me he would have liked fishing. Would you understand that about him? Okay,
Yeah. Mhm.
okay. So because he is fishing, and and I feel that he would have spent time out there fishing alone, and I feel that he enjoys that time alone, and that it's kind of his thinking time, and it's a very calm time, and he's not he's not someone who is afraid to be alone. I feel very much that he's very comfortable with himself and spending time on his own. Would
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
understand that about him?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Um, okay. He's also telling me that he was a very well-educated man, so now he's just starting to talk to me. So if you understand that part of it, then I'm just going to trust that what he now is starting to actually convey to me,
I do.
um,
Yeah.
telepathically, which is how I feel this works.
I,
Um, okay, so thank you. Let's just stay here. Let him just take over and talk. So, okay, he's saying he's calling himself, I was not a fanciful guy. He liked he liked the simple things in life, the simple pleasures.
yes, that's true.
Okay. He's saying, I liked being around people in moderation. I enjoy I enjoyed the stories they told, and I listened intently. Sometimes I think it was a bit of hogwash. But
Yeah.
I was very, orderly and respectful, and would just listen. I wasn't one to really challenge somebody's story. Um, he's saying I was very much let people kind of do their thing.
Mhm.
If they want to be crazy, if they want to be crazy, they can just be crazy.
Yes.
Mhm. Um, oh, this is wild. I don't know if I can follow this whole thing because he's starting to say, one day I was walking to the park. Ooh, okay, let's see if I can follow. Okay, one day I was walking to the park. One day I was walking to the park and I saw this woman with her child. And I just thought how beautiful that was, that relationship that I saw and witnessed between the two of them. It was just the most beautiful example of love. And I could have almost cried, like it could have brought me to tears. And I'm not an emotional man.
That's correct. Yeah.
I was more one, do your job and get through. Kind of do your job, do what you're supposed to do, toe the line. But still, I had deep thoughts and wondered, about things. Wondered what the world really was. Had questions about it. It was good. I had a good life. I had people around me that I loved and that loved me. Um, Once I went on a fishing trip with, I think, a group of guys, and that was very pleasant, unusual for me. Would you understand some fishing trip you might have done?
That would make sense. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Uh, oh, interesting. I really, really, really wanted to be part of groups, but it just wasn't my thing. It just wasn't. So I was in groups, but not in groups. It's like, um, so, and I'm feeling very much, and instead of him telling me this, he's kind of telling me, and I'm feeling this too, that like he might have been in a group, but he always felt like somehow like he didn't fit into the group, that he'd be there as part of it, but he always felt different. So
Yeah, that
I
would
don't
make
know if,
sense.
would it, okay, because
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was something you would know. Um, and he's describing, yeah, I'm not one of those guys that would be with, a group of guys and, with the beer and cheers and, and yeah, and and I'm all, I'm all in on this and I'm part of this group. And he says, yeah, that's just no, no, um, that wasn't really him. Um, I'm wondering if he'd like to talk about any family, but so far he's not mentioning, but I'll just see. Oh, okay. Would you understand he had two daughters and a son?
Um, yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. He just said, yeah, no, I had a family, two daughters and a son.
Yeah.
Um, and then he says, my wife and I got along pretty well. And he says it like that, pretty well. We had our moments. I was very proud of my kids, though one worried me more than the others.
That makes sense.
And it was a boy. It was one of the boys. He just couldn't quite get his footing, is how he's describing it. He had trouble, and then he says, was troubled. Would you understand that about one of the sons?
Um, I understand him feeling that way.
Okay, okay. Very, very stubborn. He says he had to do things his way. Very, very stubborn,
Hmm.
that boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes he put me between a rock and a hard place uh, with um, with the decisions I had to make.
Right.
Wow, what um, a funny non kind of my attention is being drawn. There is a hummingbird that's just like out there, right? And it was there for quite some time, so it really started to pull me in a different direction. Um, and while I was having that little interaction there, I heard from him, I believe in a world consciousness. And that just seemed like such a non sequitur, as though, you know, maybe somebody else is coming in, but let me just reconnect with him and see if there are any last things he'd like to talk about. Okay. All right. So that was, yeah. He said he was interested in science, philosophy.
Mhm.
I liked things about the world. Astronomy, yeah. He says, yeah, I liked, because I couldn't help saying, oh, what about astronomy? He said, astronomy, yeah, yeah. I mean, I really do try not to ask them questions and let them just tell me what they want to tell me. But, it's really wonderful when you get into a conversation, which I feel like, we're also having. So, as he says those other two things, I say, well, what about, philosophy? Or what about astronomy? Oh, yeah, yeah, no, I liked that too. Um, okay, particularly the stars at night. I could be a romantic guy. He says
Okay.
it's not like I wrote poetry or anything.
I believe that deep down. I believe it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, he says I have my moments.
Yeah.
He says, and he's saying it like this, I want you to be secure with what you're doing in your life. And it's really funny that he's saying it like that instead of referring to like himself. So it's such an interesting uh, way of wording a phrase in a reading. I want you. And so is he talking, does he mean, let me just check. Yes, I think he means like that would his hope is that you will feel comfortable with what you're doing in your life. Because it's such an interesting way to say it. I want you, or what? Now I'm just kind of I'm kind of forgetting what he just relayed to me, but it was something like that. I want you to, yes, be comfortable with what you do in life and love it. So I think, that's a message,
Mhm.
for you. He's saying, I want you to
Okay.
um, don't get distracted. He's saying, I want you to do those things and don't get distracted with all of these little tiny things.
Okay.
Be bold, be bold, be bountiful. Bountiful, that's a really interesting. Be creative, which you are, he says. Just use it wisely. Be there, but not all the time. You can't help every single person in the world, though I know you try. And I know that too.
Yeah.
This is such an interesting way to say this. Flutter about and be light, but flutter about and be light. Okay, and then he's also using that as in a twofold way. Be the light within, which I know you are. And thank you so, so much for allowing me to be here today. And I just want to go back if and just understand Robert, because we've had this lovely exchange, and I just want to ask about Robert. Okay, he's saying Robert was really just to understand who he was, like who the person that was here today was. But let me just see if there's any message for Robert. Okay, he's saying Robert's doing fine on his own. He's in a good place right now.
That would make sense.
Yeah, and there's really no message for Robert. So it was
Yeah,
really just so
that
that you
would
would
make sense.
understand.
Right.
Would it? Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would make sense. So,
Okay, good. All right. Well, just a lovely man. Like I would have, had we been sitting like, on my porch, just having a chat, with some coffee or what, I would have it would have, just what a lovely conversation with him. I just loved it. I hope you did too.
I did actually. You brought a side forward of him that he did not often show to people. Okay.
But was
Because
it a side you knew?
I knew of it. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good.
But
That's
like 95% of the time, he would present himself as being a bit of a curmudgeon. Okay.
okay.
But he did have this other side to him, and it was interesting. But I have a couple comments here that I think are really interesting. Okay. And I want to go to the curmudgeon side of him.
Okay.
Okay. Because he was a really, really well known for his practical jokes
Wow.
on
Okay.
people. Okay. All right. So you said, first of all, he came in and smoking the pipe, number one. I only know one pipe smoker, so I knew who
Okay.
that was. But then you said he's on the paternal side. And I know that you know family relationships really, really well. For the benefit of our YouTube audience, this is something that Tammy really has down to an art form, is figuring out what the relationship is. But you said he was kind of like going in and out of
I
the
did.
paternal
Yes.
side.
Yes.
Yes, you did. Okay. Which I thought was very telling because I think he was pranking you. He was not on the paternal side, he was on the maternal side.
Okay.
Okay. And I know, like I said, I know your ability well enough to know that you know that, but I think you just got pranked
Oh, isn't that
by a
funny?
spirit because that was him. He was a jokester. Okay. And so you say, and he said, you even said it, he's in and out, he's in and out. Okay.
Yeah.
Paternal side. So he's kind of jumping over there to make you think he's on the paternal side, and he's not. He was on
Yeah.
the paternal side. Okay. And then the second thing that you said that I thought was really interesting, and this is for the benefit of our YouTube audience, because sometimes when people receive readings, they look at them so literally. And I don't think that's the best representation of how to handle a reading. But what you said was he was well educated.
Hmm.
And that was fascinating because he had an eighth grade education.
Interesting.
But on the other hand, I have read letters written by my grandfather with an eighth grade education that are better written than letters I've seen written by people with master's degrees, because that was the way that they taught people back then. An eighth grade education put you in a far better place than high school, okay, and sometimes college, because they really, really taught them well. And I have always talked about my grandfather's education and said, you know, even though he only had an eighth grade education, he was one of the smartest men that I ever knew, and a voracious reader. Okay, you talked about him doing crossword puzzles in the newspaper, this kind of stuff. Read the newspaper front to back every day. Okay, and had a massive library,
Oh,
most
wow.
of them being left reference books. Okay, that he would go into and consult for different things that he needed to do, because he was a kind of like a self-made man. He could do everything,
Yeah.
you know. So um, now this was interesting too. You said he was an attentive listener, and there's a little joke about that, um, because he ran a hotel in a dry county, so
Oh,
you could not serve people alcohol for money. All right, but you
good
could serve alcohol to your friends. So therefore, everybody was a friend
friend.
for the price of their hotel room.
That's really funny.
Okay, but he was the bartender.
Okay. Oh, so that was the listening. He's a good
Yeah, which
listener
is
because
really funny.
bartenders, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And then you talked about his son, and his son did give him some fits at some point, and you said the son was stubborn, and that had to do with the fact that his son actually uh, met a woman who was divorced and Catholic, and he married her, and they were Methodist, and that was like such a headbutting there. But
Wow.
the son would have none of it. He was just the most easygoing, gentle guy. But when he met that woman, she was the love of his life, and he stayed with her for the rest of their
Wow.
lives. So, but that
Did the family ever come around, to her?
eventually, yeah, eventually they came around to like 90%,
Yeah.
but initially, they said to him, well, you're not welcome here.
Wow.
Initially they did, just booted him out, because she was
Wow.
divorced and Catholic, and they were Methodist. And, unfortunately, back in those days, people got into these stupid fights over conflicting religious beliefs.
Oh,
And,
small
you know,
things. Oh,
yeah,
he talked about small thing, like don't get caught up or something with small.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's expressing regret there, you know.
Oh, these small things,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and, all that the messages resonated and all that. But I actually have a question for you, for our YouTube audience. At one point, you said, I don't want to ask him questions. I just want to listen. Okay. So can you explain the difference? That's kind of like a school of thought in
It
learning
is.
mediumship.
It
Yeah,
is. And
explain the difference if you don't
well,
mind.
and here's the thing is that when I was first starting my training, the tutor I was working with was very comfortable and loved the idea of, asking questions. So she said, if to sometimes to kick the reading off and you would ask them questions and there was like a list of questions that we were given that we could just like you were at some party and you might say, oh, what kind of books do you like to read, what kind of films do you like, what kind of food do you like, what kind of, and we had all of this list of questions we could be asking, which would make it very evidential because it's very cut and dry kind of evidential. And I do think that can be a really good way for people who are starting out in mediumship. I think, I mean, for me, it worked really well. I loved it. And because I think that, most of the time, mediums when they're training, except for the ones who, have seen spirit, since they were born or whatever, or they just start seeing spirit. I think that we all go through different stages of development. And um, I think it takes a while to start just hearing them speak, and where you're, and it's not, when I say hearing them speak, it's not really so much that, I mean, you could call it that, but it's really a telepathic communication. It's as though somebody's putting an idea in your mind and you're just responding to it with your thought. And so they're giving you their thought and you're responding with your thought. And so, and I think, I know, at least for me, I've gone through all of these different stages, and now that's the way that tends to work. And so um, I've been then told by other tutors, let them have the stage, let them talk. But I think that's hard to do depending on the stage of development, because I think, I also think that when we're first starting development, it's hard to trust. And I think that might be the key. You have to trust that what's coming in isn't your mind making it up. And the more you're practicing with that, and the more your recipient is validating the evidence that you're giving that's coming into your awareness and your thinking, it makes you trust more and more to just listen to
Mhm.
what's coming in. And so it's really um, quieting quieting oneself enough, knowing that you've got the connection, quieting oneself enough. And it doesn't happen with every single spirit, because we're all different vibrations and energies. But if it really, works well, which today it was really nice, because it just very quickly into it, I just I slowed down. It's almost like I slowed down to let that thought come in. Let the thought come in. That's what he's trying to say. And he's giving me a little, a little zinger, soft zinger right here in my head right now, which I always take to be, in agreement. And so if you, and I think too, like a lot of mediums, because they get nervous, they start to try to think too much, and it's almost like it suddenly pulls a curtain over the communication. So it's like, ooh, they're trying to get that thought to you, but your brain is now suddenly nervous, and so it's like scrambled. It suddenly gets
Mhm.
scrambled, and that thinking, that the listening isn't then happening. That waiting to hear, and so I agree. There are like the two thoughts there. So because the one tutor, the first one, she would have conversations, with her people. And then there are others who say, I've even studied with somebody who was absolutely insulted that one would dare to ask a spirit a question. Like, how dare you ask that? So it's gone. I've been with one extreme to the other. That extreme didn't work for me at all. Um,
Mhm.
but I've been to those two extremes, and so I work like in the middle now. So it's like you know, get
As
it
do I.
going, get
Yeah,
it going,
right.
and then listen, and then just
Yeah.
listen, so.
And I think that's an important point for our YouTube audience because I've heard people who have received mediumship readings from mediums who I know are exceptional mediums, and they complain because they say, well, she only gave me, three or four pieces of information about my loved one in spirit. Okay. And obviously, when we are giving somebody a reading, we have to have quote those facts and figures in order to make you understand who the person is. Okay. But then for us, I think it becomes a question of honoring spirit and getting out of the way, like Tammy said, and letting them talk. And once they start to talk, sometimes they don't want to get into things like, oh, yeah, tell her about my 1968 Corvette, or tell her about, this thing that she'll know, tell her this thing that she'll know. Sometimes they don't do that. Sometimes they want to talk about other things like Tammy was talking about here, that are a little bit more on the esoteric side and that are more personality driven than fact driven.
Right.
So if you go to have a mediumship reading, you may see, something like this come up. I think you always have to have a certain amount of
Mhm.
facts and figures. They
Yes.
have to be there so that you can identify who that person is. But is it a bad thing to have that reading shift a bit and go down a road that does not have facts and figures as much as it is a conversation? I think it's a great thing myself, and that's the way I prefer to work. And I think Tammy just said she prefers to work that way too. She's in the middle.
Yeah, and I had a tutor once, and probably not just one, who said this, um, who said, if you were on, in the other dimension or wherever we go, when we transition, if you were there and you had this opportunity, to come back and speak to a loved one or a friend, or would you really want to be saying, well, I was five, I was 5'8", I had, you know, sandy brown hair, I, my shoes fit awkwardly. No, is that really what you'd have this much time and that's what you want to say? You'd
Yeah.
want to be saying this was what, well, that's actually a really great exercise for anybody getting ready to go for a reading. Pretend it's you. Pretend you're wherever they are now. Write down, like, what would you want to say? What would what would you want that person to hear about your life, or about what would be those things?
Mhm.
And I kind of doubt it would be, well, I, I, here, I was, this age, this tall, this size shoe, I had a tattoo on my left arm, I mean, it's
Well,
probably,
and to take that to the next level, I don't know if I was on the other side that I'd want to sit there and say to a loved one who's still on the earth plane, oh yeah, I wasted away from cancer for a year and a half and I suffered horribly.
yeah, and to
I
go
would
into all the
not say
details.
that, I would not. So, um, you know, I, I,
Yes.
I don't know, it's an interesting thing, but, you know,
Yeah. No,
so
it's yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I do. I think it's very important to get some, you know, evidence in the
sure,
beginning, and
have
then
to have
maybe
it.
even check in with your recipient and say, are you confident of, about who is here right now? Do you feel like you know who is here? And if they say yes, then, now try to start connecting in. Sometimes that can interrupt the flow asking like that, but um, I mean, usually the rule of thumb is get at least three solid evidential pieces of information, and
Mhm,
then you can go off and also within, like you were saying, within that flow of conversation and listening, there'll be more evidence. Like when he came in with kids. How many
mhm,
kids? A
mhm.
daughter and two sons. I mean, like, and so it's, as a recipient, be sure to be not discounting, not just because there will be evidential information within that as well.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Good learning on that one. Thank you, Tammy. All right. I'm going to see if I can grab a spirit for you. Give me a second to catch a link here. See who's here. right. I picking up the presence of a man who um, does not feel exceptionally tall to me for a guy, so to speak. Okay, I'm going to put him tops at maybe 5'10", and he's got curly hair that's starting to silver a bit. Um, Wearing shorts. Um, Actually, one thing I want to say about his dress is that he's quite presentable. Let's put it this way. So he's got on a button-down shirt with a collar, and he's wearing shorts, but the shirt is tucked in, and there's a thin belt on the shorts. Okay, but he's definitely on the neat side. And let's see what else we can see about him. My overall feeling I get from this man is that he's got a certain elegance to him that I like. Like I look at him and I think, this is like a guy who maybe his life might be a movie or something like this. I look at him and I want to know more about him because he looks interesting. So I'll stop and ask if any of this is resonating with you.
It is. Yep.
It is. Okay, let
Yep.
me lean into him a bit. Okay. So when the first thing that I see with this guy is um, it looks like a spider web, and this is my symbol for business connections. Okay, so I feel like he had connections everywhere, a big network. Would that make sense
Sure
to you?
would. Yep. Sure
Okay.
would.
uh, i feel like um I feel like he actually spent time on boats, and I'm going to say that they were boats. He's actually been on boats that are bigger, like yacht size. Would that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Because he's showing me walking on the deck of this, and this looks like a private yacht to me. Um, I feel like this man could. Uh, I want to say he was a bit of a chameleon, and he could adapt to mm, different social situations as he needed. Not only could he, but he would as well, because he almost feels to me like a Henry Kissinger diplomat type
Yeah, I would
thing.
understand that.
That would make sense.
Yep.
Okay. Um, what else? I want to talk about this Henry Kissinger side of him because I think this is really interesting. So, in order to be that person, you have to have a certain level of intelligence and charm, but also be a good listener. Because if you're the one who does all the talking, people just hear you. But if you take the step back and listen, and you make other people feel intelligent by listening to them and asking them questions, then they are drawn to you because you've elevated them. And I think he had that skill set. Would that make sense
Yeah,
to you?
absolutely it would. Yep.
Okay. All right. feel like he was a wine drinker.
He
That
was,
makes
yeah.
a wine drinker. Okay. And this is interesting. I feel like he gives to me uh, like the air of old money, but I don't feel like he had old money. I feel like he just gave off that air and um could move in those circles. Would that make sense to you?
Uh, he actually did come from some money on one side.
He did? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I feel that old money.
Hmm.
Let's see. Okay, he's showing me something here, and I'm just going to mention it. Okay, but it looks like a child's pedal car. Do you know one of those little toys that you would give like a 4-year-old, like a
Yeah.
little car? Okay,
Yeah.
would you understand a little car with him?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, all right. Um, I feel like he was in his. No, I'm going to retract that. Let me back up. Um, I feel like he enjoyed the beach, and but I'm going to say that it's more a tropical setting, and I'm also going to say it's Mediterranean rather than Florida. Would that make sense?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, all right. Okay, yeah, it feels European to me. And right now he's showing me himself taking just an early morning walk on the beach, and nobody is around him, and all he's doing is just listening to the sound of the waves and the wind. And the two of those combined help him to focus. And all of a sudden, I've got like a catch in my throat. What is this about? Ah, for the benefit of our YouTube audience, sometimes spirit will throw a physical thing at us that does not belong to the medium, it belongs to the spirit. I got to see if I can figure out what this is. This is right here. I feel like I'm having some difficulty breathing. Would that make sense?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I have to ask him to take that away. Excuse me. That's kind of bothering me. Excuse me. All right. Thank you. I also feel like he traveled west in the US. Would that make sense?
Yep.
To
There was a period. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I wanna see what the West is up to. Tell me about that. And I feel like he was out there in more than one season. I feel like he went out in the winter and he skied in the winter. Would that make sense? In the
Yep.
West?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
But I also feel like he was there not skiing
True.
in the summer, okay? And this is kind of interesting because I think he just found the natural beauty of the area astonishing. And it's interesting as I lean into him and I look at him in these natural settings like the beach and the West, I feel like a reverence for the earth. I feel like he really appreciated places where he felt like he was the only person
Yeah, I
on
could
the
see
earth.
that. I could see that.
Okay. All right. Uh, now, now he's showing me a dance. And this looks it's a partner dance, first of all. Okay. And I'm actually going to call it like a jitterbug swing type thing. Would you understand him dancing this way?
I understand him dancing. Yeah,
Dancing. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Now he's dropped me into a black tie affair. I'm going to
Mm.
see what this is. So this event, whatever it is, okay, and I'm going to dig into it because I think it's interesting. This event is loaded with people of financial means, and I'm saying that because I'm looking at these tuxes, and they're not rented. Okay, these look more like custom tuxes. So would you understand him being around a crowd that would have their own tuxes?
Yes.
Okay. And as I lean more into this, I'm hearing like a classical music going on in the background here. Oh, this is pretty. Um, I'm just going to describe this place because this is awesome. Okay, so this place has marble columns. Okay, kind of like an off-white marble columns throughout the room. And in the center, there's a big fountain in the center of the room. Would you know what this room is?
I think I know what you're describing. I'm not sure about the fountain, but the columns, absolutely.
The
And there is,
columns?
yes,
Okay.
and there is something significant in the center
Okay.
of the
All
room.
right. Okay. And then all these people in the tuxes are moving around these columns and,
Yep.
or just moving around the room.
Hmm.
Okay. And champagne. Of
Yep.
course. Of course. Champagne. Uh,
Oh, this could also be.
oh, did I jump spirits?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no, no.
okay.
I'm just thinking of the
Okay.
event. Which event?
Okay. All right. And to know him a bit more. Now he's moved me to the outside, and he's showing me that there was a valet parking at the door, and people were coming up, and they're all coming in like very expensive cars. Okay, which kind of makes sense, but I want to go back inside, see who's here. See. And he's showing me the ladies. He wants to direct my attention to the ladies. You were here too, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
Okay. Are you? And you had on a long gown. Okay.
Yeah, I did. Hmm.
Yeah, I had on a formal gown. Okay. Ah, he's referring to these as happy times. Okay, happy times. Oh. Did you have beef Wellington?
I suspect it was on the menu.
Really?
It was probably a choice. Yeah.
I just heard beef Wellington. Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't even think people made that anymore. Wow. Okay. Okay. He's starting to fade a bit. So I'm going to see if I can just grab a message from him. And so what he's saying is that he says his life was made better with you in it. And there's an element of this is delivered in a way that is a combination of sincere, 100% sincere. Okay. So it's a combination of sincerity and love. Okay. Is what I'm feeling. He's just saying that his life was made so much better because you were in it. Okay. And he said he wouldn't have had these happy times that he had, that he just showed you, if you had not been in his life. Okay. Says he wants another waltz. Wants another waltz. You dance in your kitchen?
I do. That's very evidential, as many other things in here are.
Okay. All right. So he wants you to know that he's going to dance with you in the kitchen. Okay. And I'm going to leave you out with light and love, and thank you for letting me serve spirit.
Oh, that was so awesome. Wow, Carol.
Oh,
Gosh, I've got a few notes here.
oh, okay.
Oh, oh, that
Okay.
was so, so well done. Wow. Um, I love the idea of your spider web, for connections, because they
Yeah,
do
yeah,
give
yeah,
us our, spiritual dictionary. So that's
yeah.
very cool. Um, Wow, so you definitely described him accurately, with curly hair, starting to get silver, very presentable. I could see button-down shirt, of course. He had a very neat side to him, very elegant man. Um, Business connections, absolutely. Um, yeah, different size boats, just kind of depending on the occasion. And also absolutely could adapt to different social situations,
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
why that's what made him such a good
made him
partner,
successful. Yeah,
made him successful
yeah.
in the capacity in which he played in the
Hmm.
firm.
Yeah.
So um, they were very lucky to have him in there, because he did a lot there. Um, so good. So with that, yeah, very good listener. Um, Uh, oh, the old money. It's interesting, and I know why you were feeling that, because and I realized after, because it was kind of once removed. So, because one side of his family had a great deal of wealth,
Okay.
but his mother was a bit of a rebel, and
Oh,
she really, they lived a much different, life when he was growing up.
oh,
But
okay.
like, his grandparents, they
Oh,
came
okay.
from,
All right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
a cook, a
Okay.
chauffeur, a butler,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
jeez.
But his mother was like, um, so I get that. The child's pedal car, absolutely, I remember that.
Oh,
And it's kind of significant right now um, because of looking something that was stored recently, that wasn't the car, but it was something similar, which I won't say in case that comes through
hmm.
again. Um, and Oh, the tropical setting in the Mediterranean, absolutely. Yeah, there's a particular country, which I also won't mention, two
Okay.
countries that would be significant, which I
Okay.
won't mention in case that
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
through again. Um, a early morning walk on the beach. Yeah, he very much uh, was very much into nature, and I think really
Yeah.
appreciated
Really
nature.
appreciated
Yeah,
it.
he
Yeah.
really did, much more than I did, which,
Mhm.
I wish, I wish I had more, had done that. I mean, I did as a kid, and then I kind of went away. I don't know
Oh,
why, but now it's back again. It's been back for a bit, but yeah. Um, the difficulty breathing, that is really interesting. Yes. And the fact, at first I thought, oh, maybe he was getting choked up from the memory and he was showing you kind of getting choked up, but then you said it feels really uncomfortable.
mhm.
And so he ended up being intubated.
Oh,
So
God.
you were absolutely, you were picking up on that. He was sending you that and you really, like, um, that was, yeah, you were really feeling that. Definitely traveled west, but for both skiing and work. Um, let's see. Oh, dancing. That's fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because um, I love to dance and do dance in the kitchen, and I love that message. But but
He's
but but
watching you.
that's really funny. Yeah, because I'm like, yeah, a little salsa in the kitchen. Um, the black tie affair. That was fascinating. So I was like, oh my God, like, is she going to be describing it? So it's almost as though. I think you were describing one thing, but then part of like the fountain, then I was like, was there a fountain at this other one? Because there were two really kind of big events. One I was definitely in a long dress for, and the other I wasn't. But both were like these exceptional, events. One
They didn't
truly
feel like
exceptional.
weddings to me. Were they?
They weren't weddings.
They weren't
No,
weddings. Okay.
no. I think you described most the it was actually just a couple of months before his passing. And it was a big dinner in another country, and it was for people who were on a board of a university.
Okay.
But where it was held was what you were describing. But there was something in the center of the room. It wasn't the fountain, it was a very large, like historical table. And
Oh,
so, and it
okay.
was like roped off, because it's
Okay.
this
Yeah. Yeah.
historical thing. And so there were the columns, and people moved among the columns. Everybody, it was black tie. I had
Mhm.
on a long dress.
Mhm.
Beef Wellington was, I don't remember, 'cause I don't eat beef much, but actually at all. But that it would not surprise me that was on if that were on the menu, because it's that kind of a dinner. Um, and so. It I'm thinking it's that because of me being in the long dress,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I think it's more that. And I think that's more significant because it was really more personally connected to him because he was on the board. And so it was more, and it was so close to the end of his life. And interesting, you talked about champagne. He actually, because of, his condition, spilled champagne on himself. And
Oh.
so
Oh.
you
Oh.
were talking about champagne. There was champagne. Um, the only thing is there wasn't valet parking at that one. There was valet parking like at this. Was there even valet parking at the other one? It was probably valet parking, but we didn't need it. So so that is the only thing like that I just don't. We didn't use valet parking, but it may have existed. I'm not sure. But like out of everything else that's like, you know, spot on. I think that's like the one thing that was, um, but it was fascinating to listen to you describing it. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, I think my eyes got big. Like, yeah. And then it's just such a lovely message that his life was made better by me in it, and that he'll join me in the kitchen for some dancing. So really beautiful. Thank you so much. And I
Oh,
think you
thank
might
you.
know who this is.
Thank you.
So
I'm thinking your husband. So
yeah, and
yeah.
but you brought through such different information.
Yeah.
so
That's
very
awesome.
different.
Well, that's interesting, for the benefit of our YouTube audience. I have brought in Tammy's husband before, but a lot of times, they'll come in and they'll give you completely different information. And and that's okay, because they're giving you different information. So you're not repeating the same old stuff, so to speak. I was not aware of the significance of things like the pedal car, for the
Right.
child's
Yeah.
car. Okay. Or, the fact that he traveled out west, anything
Yeah.
like this. Okay. Or the fact that he came from old money,
Right.
this
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
You
So,
didn't know any
or
of
the
that. Yeah.
yachts or any of this, this was all new to me. So, you know,
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely.
interesting.
What I think is really terrific that we're able to do is that sometimes, somebody can panic, like a medium can panic when they're thinking, "Oh no, I think I know who this is, and I've, read him, he's come in before," and they can almost get nervous and shut down, thinking, "Oh gosh, am I going to bring through like the same information?" Or, but because you just let it go, I could see that you were just totally connected, not even like that wasn't even a thing. Like may have been like a passing thought, but it's like, okay,
Mhm.
whatever. And then you just let it all roll. You just let it all roll so that he was able to convey to you this new and different information. So
Mhm.
that's, what I thought was really great because you were so connected. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was
Yeah.
interesting, for the benefit of our YouTube audience, when I was in that part of the reading where I was in the room looking at those marble columns, I actually used a technique that's called remote viewing.
Oh,
And that's kind of an interesting thing to look into. If you don't know anything about it, look it up. But it was as if I was in the room and looking
mhm.
around,
Yeah.
because he actually let me see, through his eyes what that room looked like. And it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It was, well, I'll say because nobody else is here, anyway, but it was in Brighton in England, in
Mhm.
Brighton, and it was in a historical building, the name of which is suddenly escaping me, but it was this historical building that was, just gorgeous
Yeah,
with the columns and
absolutely
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, just
Ah,
lovely, lovely reading. Yeah.
well, awesome.
I
Well,
loved watching you just like you were so connected. I was like, wow. Yeah, it was good. Mhm.
as were you, it's funny, but sometimes, for the benefit of our YouTube audience, sometimes you just, well, all the time, put the self-doubts away and
Mhm.
just let spirit say what they want to say. And you'll be surprised. It doesn't make any sense to you, but it's not supposed to make sense to you. It's supposed to make sense to the person who you're reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
And such a great example is where it came out of nowhere. Here's all this other stuff, and then child's pedal car. Like,
Yeah.
whoa, wait, what?
Yeah. 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 That
But it
didn't
makes
fit.
sense. Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
We're just looking like a shed. It's like, should we pull this out? No, let's just wait till next year, kind of thing. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Tammy.
So,
Well, this has been a fun experience to go one-on-one today, on the
yeah.
Evidential Mediumship channel. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down with a prayer. If everyone out there in the audience would join me. And if you like what you've seen here today, hit like and subscribe. We'll be back on next Saturday, same time. Holy Father, Mother God, thank you for allowing us to come together today in service of spirit. Thank you for this gift of mediumship that you've given us and allow us to use this precious gift to help others who need your healing and love. Bless our friends and loved ones and protect them from sickness and harm. Bring joy into the lives of people who have sorrow, health into the lives of people who have illness, and abundance to the lives of people who have little. Thank you for the lessons that you've given us today and help us to continue to build a relationship with you that is based on love and trust. And always, please help us to be the lights that change this world for the better. Amen. All right.
Amen.
Thanks again. See you next Saturday, okay? Bye-bye now.